Hey, welcome to the Master Your Mix podcast. My name is Mike Indovina, and thanks for hanging out with me today. Today, we're throwing it back. We're going to episode 95, where I interviewed Steve Chadie. Now, if you're not familiar with Steve, Steve is a recording and mixing engineer who began his career as an intern at Willie Nelson's Pedernales recording studio back in 1995. And from there, he quickly worked his way up the engineering ladder. He's done a lot of work with Willie, and he's also worked with a lot of other artists as well. He's worked with artists like Lost Lonely Boys, with whom he was nominated for a Grammy Award with. He's worked with Sublime. He worked on their self-titled record, Hilary Duff, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, and a bunch more. And in this episode, this is a really fun one. We dig into a ton of good stuff. We dig into his work with Willie Nelson, what it's like to work with him. We also talk about being reliable and getting artists to hire you, because obviously that's an important part of his career and getting to work with people like Willie. We also get into his process for recording. We talk about how he likes to do things like ride vocals as he records them. We get into recording brushes on a drum kit or how to record acoustic guitars. And he shares some cool mono versus stereo recording techniques that he also likes to use when it comes to acoustic guitars, as well as some extra tricks that he likes to use for creating really wide sounding acoustics. Now, this episode, like I said, this is a lot of fun. Steve is just a really great guy, great personality, lots of fun. You can tell he just loves working on audio all the time. So I think you're going to really enjoy this episode. So with that said, let's just jump right into it. All right, Steve Chadie, thank you so much for being on the Master Mix podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing well. It's a great morning for me.
Amazing.
Not working after a month.
Yeah, it's nice to get a little bit of a break every now and then, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on. For people who might not know your history or be familiar with you and your work, can you give us that story about how you got into music, how you ultimately got into production and mixing and all the stuff that you're doing now?
Well, yeah, I mean, the getting into music part, I was really young. I just started gravitating towards, my parents would always play records. They listened to Floyd and Hendrix and all that kind of stuff. And I just started like vibing in my crib. My mom said I would be bouncing around and jamming out, and she would just always play records for me. Then I got into choir and band in school, and then I started playing guitar in junior high, just like everybody else, because I wanted to meet girls.
That's how I got it. That's why I got into drumming too.
Exactly, man. Music, what? So I was playing in bands and studying music here in Denton at the town I'm in right now, and I just got tired of it. So I went down to Austin, and there was a school in San Marcos, Texas that had this new engineering program that would take all my music hours. And I was like, okay, that was my motivation. What's going to take all my hours so I can get out of school, get back and play and start touring around? And I got in the studio, and I was like, man, this is so cool. And they got me an intern at Willie Nelson's Pedernales recording studio. First day on the job, Willie and the Beach Boys showed up after hours to do a session. And I was like, wish that footage is online. His son just showed it to me the other day.
No way, of your very first day?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in it, but yeah, it's if you Google Willie Nelson sings in the studio with Beach Boys or whatever. So we're working with a local band. The engineer goes, can you stay? Willie just called, they're coming in, or the office called. And he was going to sing on a Beach Boys record where they're doing just everybody sings on one of their songs. So we think, yeah, Willie's going to come in, sing on this. I'm like, great, I'm going to meet Willie Nelson. Well, damn, man, the Beach Boys showed up. And I was just like, this is kind of cool. And I just never left. October will be 27 years.
Wow.
So half of my life. I'll be 54 in a month and 27 years at the studio. So,
jeez.
I didn't realize
that's
that
crazy.
until I was sitting in the room the other day going, you've been in this room 27 years. So, there you have it.
That's amazing.
I never left, man.
So but even the idea of just getting an internship at that studio, I imagine that, I mean, you made it sound like it was just easy to get, but I imagine that there's probably a lot of competition to get that kind of spot.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, everybody needed an internship, but I mean, I was a good musician, so I excelled at it, man, because I could, and this is one of the things I think is important. You have to be able to relate to not just people, but musicians. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but man, if people aren't comfortable around you, you're not getting anything. Anyway, the guy that was the engineer for the program, head engineer for the program, he used to work he was one of the engineers at Willie Nelson's, and he just asked me if I wanted to do that. And I said, yeah, sure.
Man, that's the dream right there.
Yeah, I'm
Just have,
super
like, a
lucky,
nice-
dude. I'm the luckiest guy. I keep telling my daughter, "Man, you got to be smart because I used up all our family's luck."
I love that. So that's crazy. Like your very first day, you meet Willie Nelson, you meet the Beach Boys, and like what if looking back at that day, like what were you doing at that time as an intern? Because I imagine that you weren't touching any of the board or any of that stuff like that first day.
Well,
sure,
the
right?
guy there didn't want an intern, Larry again. We became fast friends pretty soon. You know, it wasn't an intern situation at that studio. They never had interns. It's a pretty closed loop there. And yeah, I was just kind of observing. I think I might have taken some notes. You know, that's about it. And I started working the tape machine. We didn't have Pro Tools. And I had to change reels. And Willie keeps rolling when he's in the studio. So I got really good at changing 2-inch reels on a Studer A800. Those big 14-inch, 2-inch reels of tape. Because, man, he'd just be going and going and going and going. And you had about 15 seconds between songs to switch a reel. And wham! And I started doing that. Then he started letting me put up mics, and then he started letting me patch stuff in. And once he trusted me enough to patch stuff in and put up mics, I was doing everything. Because, you do enough of those sessions where everything's correct. He's just like, all right, well, do this usual setup, and I'll be in an hour after you or whatever. You're like, hey, wait a minute. Did I just get screwed here? It was
amazing.
Cool.
I mean, you have to obviously prove your worth. And, by paying attention to those little details and probably learning the way Willie likes to work and all that stuff, like, that's a pretty specific situation, like working for an artist and having them, they've got their years of experience coming into it too. So you're learning their approach really. And, making sure that you're paying attention to those details so that you can rise to the top or rise to the occasion when it's your time to get called for a session, right?
Yeah. I just fit in, man. Like I said, I just got lucky. Everything was cool from day one. I mean, you have anxiousness and you get nervous and all those natural feelings, but Willie always made me feel comfortable, not by doing anything specific, but just by being a real dude. He'd come in and you just interaction was easy, and I'm not the kind of guy to fawn over people, and I don't get all starstruck and stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, you're in the room with some guys sometimes who are like, damn, man, that's, I don't know, Merle Haggard or whoever, but that's like 2 seconds and then you're back to work. Because if you focus on that, you're not doing your job.
Of course. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's funny because before we hit record here, we were joking around about like internships and like, what advice would you give to somebody? And you shared a story about someone saying like, you're not in the band, stop partying. Or whatever.
Yeah, you're not in the band. That was it, man. The guy was out there partying and he came in. And I mean, look, if you're going to party, that's your business. And if you could do your job, I'm pretty tolerant of all that stuff. I mean, if you're destroying your life, I might be like, hey, dude, go away with that. But if you're smoking some weed or whatever, you better be able to do your job. Okay. I don't care if you're stoned, if you can do your job stoned, but you better be able to do your job well. And that's usually not the case. So I never really partook much at work, but yeah, this dude was out there getting high and came in. He was a zombie. And the engineer just looked over and said, hey, you're not in the band. We all knew what he meant. That's all he said. It was like, damn.
Well, it makes sense. And it's the same thing going back to like being starstruck. It's like, if you're so focused on everything but the engineering, like you're going to fail and you're not doing your job. So you have to.
Yeah. I'm not there to pitch songs. I'm not there to get autographs. I think I've gotten 3 autographs from Willie, like one from Music Cares, one from my uncle when he was passing away. I don't want to go out and buy. We're there to. He's being creative. We're there to do stuff. Getting autographs is not on my list of things to do.
Yeah, for sure. That's amazing. Well, I mean, the idea of working as like a house engineer for some big star musician, like I think a lot of people would see that as the dream. To have like a home base that you can go to and to work with like amazing talent every day. Like that's a pretty rare thing for a lot of people. So what do you think it is about you that keeps Willie coming back to you? Like, I mean, you've been there for, you said 27 years.
Yeah.
So there's obviously something that has made you guys connect a lot.
Well, originally it was run commercially, and I mean, I was a heartbeat in there that could get the job done as far as the office that ran the place was concerned. I mean, it was more than that. We're all very close, but I was you could count on me to get the job done, and it would be done okay at first, and better than good. No one's great when they start. But with Willie now in later years, I think he's just comfortable around me. Like I was saying, I don't want anything from anybody except what I'm supposed to be doing, and I never tried to manipulate a situation to my own advantage or anything like that. And that's just because my mom and dad raised me right. It's just, I'm not in there to hustle, man. If you're going to hustle, go do your hustling on the street. And he knows when he comes in, we're going to record, we're going to say, hi, hey, what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not trying to get anything from you and except a vocal and some guitar. And you're not trying to, do anything you're not supposed to with me. You're not trying, we don't take advantage of people. That's just how your upbringing is. I mean, I've seen people lose their mind in there, dude. It's like, all right, dude, come on in here, but be cool. All right, I'm going to be cool. And then Willie walks in and is like, oh my God, I'm your biggest fan. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh my God, get out, But he's just a good guy, man. And we never had a conversation about it, so I couldn't tell you. We just get along.
And that's probably it, right? The fact that you guys haven't had that conversation just shows like you guys just treat each other as humans, and that's all that matters, right? It's like,
yeah, and I try to, all the stuff that your parents told you that pissed you off because you didn't want to hear it. It's probably good information. Like, it's not who you are, it's how you treat people. It's not how much money you have, blah 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 blah, and all that stuff where you're just like, I want all the money. I want to, you're a kid, whatever. So just try to pass those lessons on to your kids. And try not to make it about you. I find myself being my dad a lot, and I'm going, oh my God, what did I just say? Did I really just say that?
Yeah, it happens, right? Yeah, as you get older, you definitely look back and you're like, oh shit, yeah, I'm turning into them.
Yeah, exactly. I look in the mirror, I'm like, what's my dad doing in the mirror, man? Everything.
Right on. So yeah, I mean, like, I know a lot of people, especially in the early days of like trying to get into this professionally, a lot of people have this fear of like, how do I get clients, or how do I get them coming back to me at least, like, so I'm curious to know, like, what advice do you have for those people in terms of like getting artists to trust you and keep coming back to you and like to stand out over everyone else? Because I'm sure there's lots of other engineers that Willie could be working with as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of great engineers. I mean, one of the things, again, my dad used to say when I was a musician, thought I was getting good, he's like the best guitar players no one's ever heard from. He's in his room somewhere, playing. I would say just be yourself and don't try to manipulate things to advance yourself. Of course, you want to advance your career, but you got to do it in a way that's not. I mean, there's proper ways to go about things. You don't snag clients. I know I don't know them. I've seen guys in lobbies at sessions trying to snag your clients. Well, they come out and go to the bathroom and stuff. That's wrong, dude. Be a decent human being, and I think that will get people to come back. And you got to know what you're doing. You got to be efficient. You got to get good tracks for sure. But getting clients is something I'm not struggling with right now, but I've been in such a bubble for so many years that I never really put myself out there. And we stopped running commercially in about 2012, 2013. And all of a sudden I was like, man, I've got a lot of downtime. And I had to learn I guess I was 47 or something. I had to learn how to go out and get gigs. And at 47, you don't want to be in a bar having beers with the band, or I don't, at least, that ends up in handcuffs. So I don't go to the bar. You just, things like social media. I had a girlfriend that got me to do Instagram, which I didn't want to do at all, but I have fun with that. I'm pretty funny on it, I think. That's what I'm told. I don't know. I just post pictures and make smart ass comments, and people seem to like it, but the phone's been ringing, so I would say network. You gotta get out there, but don't be a cheesehead about it, man. Just be yourself. You can't have all the gigs, and you don't own bands. If you work with a band, they want to work with somebody else. So what? That's their prerogative.
Yeah, for sure. I think there is some sort of level of acceptance with that too, right? Like, some bands are going to move around. Some bands want those different producers or different engineers working on their projects, and you just got to be cool about it. And I 100% agree. It's like, you can't take it all like personal, and you can't just be a dick about it. It's like, it's gonna happen.
Man, you'll ruin yourself. I've seen guys eat themselves up, and they're not thinking about you. So why are you letting that occupy your headspace, man? You know, not thinking about you in a, like, it's business, man. There's a certain aspect of it that's business. And there are a lot of relationships. I've got some good friends that have good clients that they just work well together, and I couldn't see them working with other people, the client, but it's possible. But, you know, Austin's a pretty, it was, too many people are moving there, but it's a pretty chill community, and people get along. There wasn't a whole lot of backstabbing and shit talking going on. And I mean, there might be a little bit more now because as everything gets bigger and more money comes into town and stuff. But man, if you can't say something good about somebody, don't say it. Which, you know, we all talk bullshit, but you know, better watch out who you're talking it to.
I think I'm gonna have to name this episode something like "Using Lessons from Your Dad" or something like that.
Right.
You know? It's like
everything your dad told you and everything you learned in kindergarten is all you need.
Yeah. Right on. So you start working at Willie's place. You've been there now for 27 years. What's a typical session look like with Willie? Like how, you know, is everything just kind of already set up for him now, or like what does that typically look like?
Well, I mean, since COVID, yeah. I mean, I had stuff patched in for a year and a half. I was living out there for 15 or 16 months. I lived out there. I had a place 10 miles away, but I never went to it. But I mean, pre-downsizing, basically I would go in and set up and be ready, because when Willie walked in, it was go time. They sat down and went, and if you weren't ready to record, they were going to play anyway. And they're out there playing, and you're not, you know, so you had to be ready. And now it's primarily his vocals and Trigger, his guitar. So that stays patched in for the most part. I'll bring bands in there sometimes and strike stuff down, but I can stay dialed in and set up. But sometimes I just unplug stuff and move the knobs, because man, you don't want to be that guy who's got, oh, this compressor's for vocals only, don't turn the knobs. You know, it's just, I don't want to do that. You know, that you get too complacent, and then something comes down the line, you're like, ah. But I do a lot of he's got a lot of kids, but the two sons, both are very musical, as are the daughters. But I work a lot with his son Lucas and his son Micah, and you know, we'll strike everything and do a band session, and those are pretty normal. You know, you get there, everybody's kind of chill, you're setting up. But with Willie, when he walks in, I'm ready to go. I'm hitting record. I hear him through the mic. I hit record. You got gigs of data. You know, he's going to sit down and start playing. He may or may not ask you if you're ready. These days he does. Used to be, man, you better be rolling, dude. That's just, I've seen so many guys come in to work with him, and he's like, well, let's run through it. And I'm like, you better roll, dude. He said he's going to run through it. Well, guess what? Let's hear that back. You know,
that's the take, yeah.
I told you to be rolling, dude. I just thought I'd let you hang yourself once. So, roll. Especially with hard drives, you know. With tape, it was more like, oh man, I'm going to run out of tape. You're looking over at the machine. Now it's just like, whatever. You know, you got 5 terabytes. You're not running out today.
I love it. Well, I mean, that makes sense, right? Like a lot of these people, you know, time is precious to them. And so to take your time setting up, like that doesn't work in anyone's favor except for yours, maybe, you know, and so you have to be ready to go. So with Willie, like where he's like always recording in digital, like are you just kind of continuously recording in Pro Tools, or are you using playlists and stuff like that? Like what's your normal organization look like there?
Well, right as it is now, I get tracks sent to me from his producer, Buddy Cannon in Nashville. They're pre-recorded, and I'll have them lined up just like we did with tape. And that's how I got so fast shuttling those tapes. But now you just open the session, put the mixer on input so you know he can hear himself talking, and yeah, I do playlists of vocals, and he'll do several passes, and then it's done. It's very quick, man. You usually it's a whole lot of, man, I got to get everything going here. All right, okay, we're doing this. Oh, he's gone. What happened? Yeah, he's fast.
That's amazing. So how long is a typical like vocal session with him?
We just did 6 songs. He sang through 6 songs and played guitar on them in about an hour and a half.
Jeez.
Well, he'll come back.
Yeah,
that's the initial, like he wants to hear, there's a scratch track. Well, he doesn't want to sing to the other guy in his head. So we do like tracks, so he can live with it a while, then he'll come back. But man, it'll take the actual in-chair time's usually 1 to 3, 1 to 4 hours, depending. If he's in there, his sister just passed, which was a real bummer for all of us, but they'd come in and play for hours together, piano and guitar, and that I would just let it roll. Even in between, because there's some gold in between, man, just two people who love each other playing music is awesome. That needs to be, with all due respect to privacy, that should be recorded. You may never listen to it again, but man, it's just that kind of stuff. I've sat in there 4 hours not being able to go to the restroom. There's one entrance to the control room by design, which I tried to get them to put a back door in for me when we redid the place. They're like, nah, I don't think so.
So I imagine that there's like archives and archives of all the stuff that maybe you captured in between. So like when he's working on a record, do you ever find yourself like, let's just go back to these old sessions and let's listen to, all these hours and hours of all the stuff that we captured, or does he pretty much have a good, clear vision of like that's a song that we're going to keep or that we're going to use, that kind of thing?
Well, the songs are already done, like I was saying, and they get sent to me. But yeah, after he leaves, I'll go through and comp. I'll do comps, or I'll send them to the producer to do comps. It depends if it's one of his projects, I'll send it to his guy, Tony Castle in Nashville, and they'll comp. Or I might do like, I got to comp that. He missed a line or whatever. But if it's somebody else that he's doing a guest spot on, I'll comp it and I'll send it to him, and nothing goes out until he likes it and his manager likes it, and then it goes out. And other than the initial comping of the guitar and the vocals, it's there, but everybody wants the track. Send me everything. I promise no one will listen to it. I'm like, yeah, even you're not listening to it either, because you're getting the comp and what he says can go out, or what the powers that be say can go out. Because you gotta be respectful, man. There's so much, all the stuff that's out there, dude. People cutting farts, people doing this, people bitching out their band. I don't want that. That's invasion of privacy.
We don't want a record of Willie Nelson farts or something like that.
Or anything. Just anything. People are looking for dirt, man, And you're not getting dirt from me, dude. I got dirt, but you ain't getting it.
But man, like this again is another thing that really shows the value you provide to someone, because you genuinely care. You're acting like an audio bouncer to some degree of, like what goes out, right?
I like that. I do have my flashlight. Hey, tip, a dickie and a flashlight will get you through any crowd at any club, especially if you're as big as I am. You can part the Red Sea with that light, man. You say, excuse me, right up to the stage. Now you have to suffer the wrath of the people who just figured out they got hustled to go onto the stage, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess an audio bouncer. That's a new one. I like that.
Put that on your business card.
I'm gonna get some shirts made up. I have 2 business cards, man. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna have 2 business cards, one with a number and one without. Because sometimes you're like, no way do I want this dude calling my phone. So yeah, you can get through the website, man.
Love it. That's a great idea.
That actually happened by accident, but then I ended up going, this isn't such a bad thing, because I always look at the website. Eventually, that's how you got a hold of me, and I just forget I have that email. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got that website email. And boy, that's good for some entertainment sometimes. I'm an old friend of Willie's. Can you give me his phone number? Oh, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, wow, no.
Yeah, I imagine that would happen quite often. Yeah,
all kinds of stuff, dude.
People are crazy with that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right on. Well, speaking of your website, on your website, there was a great video that you had where you were talking a little bit about your console and some of your workflow with Willie. And one thing that stuck out to me was that you were talking about how you like to ride the faders as Willie records vocals, since he's very dynamic, instead of using compression. So I'm curious to know, why do you prefer to work that way as opposed to using compression on the way in?
Well, I have a tube tech on them because, I love that compressor. A lot of people don't like it, but a lot of people do. I think it's great. I can't hear it. Sometimes it'll be a dB, and sometimes it'll turn over and there's 7 dB, and it's just not, he can pound you, man. I just don't want to have overs. You can deal with unders, but you can't deal with overs. So over the years, like especially with the old Neve, we used to have an older Neve, not a 5088, which we have now. You could saturate that preamp pretty easily, or I had to have it at a level where it wouldn't saturate, but I needed to push it to get the low parts. But when I just know when it's coming, man. It's much easier now because you do your first pass and you see the waveform, but I could just feel it coming, man. It's just, I know when he's going to be loud. So I used to ride this. I used to come insert return on the SSL from the Neve 80 series thing and ride the little fader, and I just stopped thinking about it, and I just do it now. And yeah, I ride it to tape because I need to have it cranked up for the lows because, man, he has some beautiful stuff down low when he's not singing very loud. But, man, it's coming. the level is coming, and you just got to know. So I never really thought about it until someone pointed it out. They're like, dude, you're riding the level to tape. I didn't think that was that big a deal. I thought a lot of people did that, but made sense.
But it's an interesting approach, and I think in some respects, a lot of people would be really scared of doing that, especially if, someone like Willie and like you said, everything's fast and like you want to be as efficient as possible. So there's easily room to slip up and do the wrong thing to the vocal with it, but you've clearly got a method that works for you. Like, are you just, is it just because like over the years of you working with Willie, like you kind of learned his body language or something like that to know when something's coming and you can find a space in the silence to push the fader, or like,
that's how it used to be the way we had it when we had the Neve on the side and an SSL, and the way the studio was, I could see out a little window where he's off to the side. But now the console is smaller. Things are being made more compact. I can't see him anymore. It looks like I was leaning over really, uncomfortably. So I used to be able to look at him, but now I can just tell just by the material what's coming. But I come in, all that's going to be affected is level to tape because I come in after the compressor. I'll come preamp out into the compressor. If it's on the insert, it's still the last thing in the chain is the fader. So he's still hitting the gear the same way.
Gotcha. Like
with the older Neve, I was riding the level, like, so he wouldn't distort that preamp. You can't really distort the, you can distort the 5088, but like I said in that video, you're really screwing up if you do. That thing's got headroom for days. So I'm just riding how much of the desired sound is getting into the recorder. So like I said, if you clip something, man, okay, you can use software and this, that, and the other thing, but you may not get it back. But if you're too low, you can always crank it up to some degree. It's a very small range I'm working in there, but it's enough. It's like, he's going to hit me, so I just pull back a little. I couldn't even tell you how much. Depends on the length of the fader.
I guess, too, if you're going after the compressor, then a lot of the heavy lifting is done by that. So you don't have to make like giant moves. You might be only like a dB or two here or there, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's it. But on that old Neve, it was actually, you'd set the knob to a nominal level, and then it was actually, you could screw up then. Which I might have distorted a vocal or two back then, but that was then. This is now.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's all part of it, right? Like learning your technique of how you're going to do it. You're going to have to make mistakes along the way, but it's a really interesting approach, and I don't see too many people doing that these days. So that's why I wanted to ask about it, because yeah, it's just like a lot of people are scared to commit, and are scared to make moves on the fly.
That's a very good statement to segue into. That's the thing I like about tape the most. I'm not enamored by tape. I dealt with it a lot, and it's like, man, whatever, you guys can have the tape and the headaches, but you had to make decisions. None of this 50 playlists of basically the same solo, and then you're just putting off your decisions until later. And then that makes mixing, one of your questions on here is, we can get to it later, but man, don't send me 9 playlists and you don't know what you want. And I'm here to mix, not comp your solo, And it's just, if you want me to comp your solo, we could do that. But you hired me to mix something. And now I'm fishing through data, losing my musical is draining out of me as I'm going, well, which one of these is the one we use, So commitment's great. I used to work with Andy Johns a lot, and boy, and his brother, I never worked with his brother, but they would do the same things. Oh, you want to do another solo? Okay, well, this one's going away. You might have had a track. You had to keep your time code track. Those guys were awesome bouncing stuff together. Like you get those tracks, old Hendrix records or whatever, all those old bands, everything. I've got some multi-tracks for Little Wing, and there's a lead and a lead guitar and a rhythm guitar and a background vocal. And I was trying to explain to my girlfriend, like, yeah, you would split it off and do mutes and and stuff. Everybody's The computer makes things easy. That's not necessarily good.
It's true. I agree with you though, is, when you have those artists that want to do like take after take after take of the same thing, it's like, well, don't you know what your sound is? Like, you need to have that vision of what's your song supposed to be.
There's a lot of insecurity in the studio. That's something I'm very sensitive to, because I was a musician I didn't start doing this till I was 27. Man, there's nobody more vulnerable, I don't care who you are, than a guy bringing a song in for the first time and playing it for you. No matter what the demeanor of the person is, you got to realize, man, that's something they created. That is something that they're not sure of yet, But yeah, doing 17 solos on it's not making it better. At that point, you're just kind of avoiding. It's just personalities, man. I got guys I know they're going to do a ton of solos, and I'm just like, all right. And I'm very close with them. I give them a lot of crap about it when I'm like, yeah, it's the second one, but you can keep going. The old guys, yeah, another track? Well, no, but I got playlists. We can do playlists all day long. I like messing with people in a very friendly way.
Of course. Well, yeah, it all comes down to like reading the room and knowing, who you can joke around with and how they'll take it. And I agree with your point too of like the sensitivity, because yeah, it's a very vulnerable thing, especially like singers, like singing maybe really personal lyrics or whatever, and to criticize them without maybe knowing the context or whatever, it's like you can easily shoot yourself in the foot there and ruin a session by.
Oh yeah, man, you got to know people. They called me from the school I went to, the engineering school, and they called me one time when they were revamping the program, and they were asking me what I thought they should do. I said, just psychology class. A psychology class would be great. Forget the calculus, dude. I mean, okay, I'm doing a logarithmic fade. I'm doing a linear fade. Who needs that? I need to know what's in this dude's mind over here. Does he want me to comment, or does he want to hear what he wants me to hear, or what he wants me to say? It's hard.
It's so true. Like that is something that they do not teach in audio school that they really should. Like it is psychology. It's therapy to some degree. Like you have to know how to work with people and how to be a good person. And yeah, I wish that audio schools would teach that. Actually, that's a great point.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they took me seriously. I think they thought I was joking around. Man, I was like, I'm serious, dude. So, that calculus I almost failed. That hasn't done a damn thing for me since I got in the studio. But a psych class would have been great, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing I wanted to ask you about when it comes to like Willie's stuff is that a lot of Willie's music, a lot of the drum parts are done with brushes, and brushes are one of those things that's like very intricate. And I'm curious to know, like, what are some of your tips for getting brushes to cut through in a mix? Because, a lot of people might be afraid of like adding a lot of compression or cranking the gain up because you might get too much noise. So like, what's your normal approach with that?
Well, when I used to record, Paul would just come in with a snare drum, Paul English, and now Billy. Again, I mean, I got to point out and give credit where credit's due. Tony Castle does the most of the mixing and the band recording, but I think 2014 I did the Merle and Willie record and Heroes around that time, and that's the last full band thing. Other than him coming in, that's another thing. He likes to come in off the road and have the band play. But to answer the question, I mean, I use a 57 or a 201 on the snare. I'm very straightforward on that kind of stuff. Under mic's usually a Buyer 201 or 57, and I keep the gain nominal so you're not hearing the feet and you get too much gain, you start hearing the air conditioner, all that. But top end, crank it down. I mean, I like plugins. I mix outboard, but not always, but I often hit a plug-in first. You crank down on a digital plug-in, it's just going to make it louder without necessarily. It's gain structure. You had that on there too, man. People don't know gain structure. You can't be cranking everything, man. You're driving, you can, but it just drives everything later. When we first got Pro Tools, I had to learn to pull the faders back 3 or 6 dB, or it would slam the SSL and not sound good, man. To me, it didn't sound good. I mean, I like slamming SSLs, don't get me wrong, but it's got to be appropriately. But you know what I'm saying, man. So I crank up on the afterwards, the post when I'm mixing it. Man, I'll just put a compressor on, digital compressor, and get level up, and then go through something that sounds, colored or whatever. Drums, I don't really color too much. I just kind of keep them drummy.
Yeah.
I will distort some drums from time to time, on purpose. The old Sans amp, or just cranking Mike Prees too much, or driving the SSL. I don't really have access to an SSL anymore, but I used to love to drive that thing. Right when those little red lights are just flickering, that's when that sucker sounded good.
Right on. Yeah, I was curious about it because I personally don't record a lot of brush stuff, so I was always curious, how people tackle that, because you might it's quiet to begin with, and then you might get someone that switches over to a stick halfway through, and your gain could be all out to lunch if you're cranking everything too much.
Yeah, there's that grabbing the faders. I'm not afraid to grab faders when stuff's going down, man. Just be cool, man. Don't freak out and just that section's coming. Just put a little piece underneath and on top, and then you don't even have to think. Chick, 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 chick. Remember, that's old automation. If you had to make a quick move, you'd get the fader where you want to put a little piece of tape up under there, and then you could have it down. We used to flick them up or just throw them up there, and the tape would stop it. Wham! I mean, we're talking a long time ago, man.
That was the way it was done, right?
Yeah, group fade. You just get a pencil and pull that thing down. Pull a few faders down at once. Back when you had to do stuff, man.
For sure, it was all methodical. Everything had a purpose, and it was choreographed to some degree. Yeah,
it was a performance. I still like I use automation and Pro Tools a lot and clip gain, but I like to ride on a pass of a mix when I'm getting close. I'll ride the solo with my fingers, because I said it in that video. That I got a story about that video in a sec, but you're doing something, man. It's like you're feeling that. You can't draw that in, or you're gonna have to try 5 times to draw it in, right? It's you're doing something, man. You're feeling it, and you're moving the fader. You may be moving it so little that it's not doing anything, but in your mind you're doing something, and that's counts for something.
For sure.
But they got the drop on me on that video. They were coming out to take pictures of the console, air quotes, and
really?
So if you notice, my hair's all fried. I'm kind of like being a smart ass in the thing, and they're like, all right, it's time for your interview. I'm like, huh? Wait, what? So I started messing with the silk button. The silk button's great. I love it. I love those guys at Neve. They're great. Josh and Martin and all those dudes out there. Tristan, everybody. They're all cool. But I like to give them a hard time. Don't get the drop on me, buddy. I don't like that.
Right on. Well, hopefully they're listening and they can.
They don't listen to me. I owe them so much barbecue. They quit listening to me years ago. I had a great idea for purple silk, and they didn't think it was so great because they have the silk buttons on their gear.
Yeah.
So I'll run it like a Shelford strip on the insert of the 5088, and I'll do blue on one and red on the other, and I call it purple silk. And I thought that was really clever, and they was just like, yeah, whatever, dude. I was like, damn.
But it works.
Man, I thought that was kind of cool, dude. All right, forget it. I got crickets chirping when I emailed or texted Josh about purple silk. I was like, all right, I guess that's a dumbass thing.
That's your like all buttons in basically kind of thing, right? It's like,
what'd you get on that snare? What'd you do? I put the purple silk on there. Well, I don't have that. Well, trade secret, but not anymore.
Well, unless they make it on the consoles, people aren't going to have it, right?
Yeah, right. It's going to come out next year and be like, hey, man, I have this in writing where I texted you about purple silk. Nah, I mean, I'm not the only guy that does that. I thought it was funny. I was looking at it one day going, yeah, red, blue, make purple. These are the things that go through my mind when I've been in my house for days on end with only going to the mailbox and mixing and waking up and there's a Neve in your living room. You're just like, what have you done, man? You've taken your refuge and turned it into work. Oh, well.
So, hey, I mean, having Neve in your living room is not a bad thing, right?
It's not. It makes for a lot of air conditioning. I'll tell you that.
That's true.
Back of my house is freezing, and my girl and her daughters will be back there in coats and blankets, and I'm out here going, turn the AC down. It's hot up here, man. These things put off some heat, man. It's great in the winter.
Oh, for sure. I mean, they've gotten better, but they're still... Yeah, they'll still cook up a room.
Yeah, sure. There's still heat involved.
Yeah, of course. Another instrument that I wanted to ask you about was your approach to recording acoustic guitars. Like, what are your go-to techniques for that kind of thing?
Well, I used to. I mean, and techniques change. I mean, I think it's good to do different stuff. But I used to do XY with pencil mics because A guy I learned from was very clinical. We were on tape. He wanted things to be easy mixing. Most faders were at or around 0, and I still use that approach today. But I used to do an XY pair, a near coincidence, something like that, and with some KM84, KM100s, whatever, 414s. 414s not so much, but 451s I'd use. But I've gotten into, like, in the recent years, just doing double mono stuff and making the dude track it again.
So actually double taking the
have him play it and play it again right away, because it's just cooler. And you can do you know about the Dublin nudge? That's a little joke we came up with, the Dublin nudge, because you double and nudge it and spread it out, and it's sort of stereo. It's too perfect though, man. I think Steve Collender over at Crucial Audio is making a piece of gear similar to, I think Abbey Road had something that like delayed them and sped them up. The tracks would be slightly out of time.
Yeah, I can't remember what that plugin's called, but yeah, I've definitely seen it. It's got like a little like very variable.
Collender's making an analog version of that. That guy's great. Steve Collender, Crucial Audio, makes the Echo Nugget, all kinds of cool stuff. The Echo Nugget's what we use the most, but he's got DIs, stomp boxes. But anyway, there's nothing like a double track, man. And I used to be so left-right brain, everything had to be even, and now I like different stuff going on, or if some guy clicks on the fretboard and the other guy doesn't. That stuff used to drive me nuts, and I used to make super clean, clinically correct records, which, I mean, at the time, that was period-specific. I mean, everything in the 90s was pretty clean, and 2000s, but I like a little humanness on the tracks now. I'll leave something in. I can't leave spit in, though, man. I can hear spit through stereo pan, quadruple Marshalls and Mason Boogie. I'm like, did you hear some spit on the vocal? People were like, what? And I'll solo it up, and there's like, tick. I'm like, yeah. You eat some peanut butter before you come do vocals, dude. You know, it's like, man, I cannot stand that. I got to get that out. For some reason, that sticks. I hear that stuff, man. Which is not fun.
Because you picture it, right? It just sounds gross.
Yeah, it's nasty, dude. Doing books is a drag, man. It's like, have some more water. People are in there. Isotope makes a plug-in for that. But back in the day.
Yeah, RX.
Yeah, RX stuff's great. Those guys at Isotope are great. I mean, everybody's great, dude. I mean, I don't really have much problem with people. You know, if you make something good, I'm going to sit there and tell you about it. But if it's not good, I'm just not going to say anything. There's no sense in lying about something, dude. You know, so just don't say anything. No sense in burning bridges and being nasty either, though.
Yeah, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all, right?
There you go. My dad just entered the conversation.
Yeah.
That's more my mom, actually.
Okay.
My dad talks shit all day long, but my mom not. You're going to have to edit me, sorry.
No, it's all good. I love it. So that's cool that you actually double track your guitars, because I know like a lot of people do that with electric guitars all the time, but you don't hear about it too often with acoustics. I would think that I would think that part of it is that you would need a really good player to make it sound really tight. Otherwise, you would hear a lot of the pick attack. You know, you'd hear a lot of that like kind of flammy kind of sound, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But man, if you get a guy, and you know, just if it's not super tight, pan it less. I mean, that helps. But yeah, if you get a dude then it's good, he can really do it. It's like a 12 string, but 6 of the strings are on the left and 6 are on the right, and they're not an octave, all that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying, though? It thickens things up. It's pretty cool, man. I like it. I just get bored after a while. I'm like, man, you're making the same record, or dude, you need to evolve or devolve. Either one's fine, man. You know, get back to some Rolling Stones stuff and leave a little booger on the track. Who cares? Man, I hear all kinds of stuff on the Rolling Stones or old Zeppelin or whatever. After working with Andy Johns for so many years, I mean, I realized a great recording of a crappy song is not as good as, I don't want to say a crappy recording, but a not great recording of a great song is okay. Think of the records you grew up with, man. There's a lot of stuff on there that's like, damn, Pro Tools ruined me on that. I never heard all that stuff. Then now I'm super hypersensitive to it, but I can turn it off, which took years to learn too. You got to be able to turn that off, man. You can't be rolling around in the car listening to just the snare drum in a song, man. You got to be listening to the song, dude.
Of course. So going back to acoustics, you know, the idea of like mono tracking a guitar in mono versus stereo. you had mentioned that you like to do XY. I love doing XY. I think it's a great way to spread the guitars out. But like when it comes to choosing whether or not you're going to track something in mono or stereo, how do you go about deciding like when and where you're going to do that? Or do you just always mic your guitars up the same way?
No, that's a really good question. I mean, I try to use, it depends, if I'm in a studio, I used to bring a bunch of gear and all that. I kind of like going in places and using what they have now. Maybe bringing one or two things as insurance, but no, I don't think too much about the mic. It's going to be some kind of small diaphragm condenser, or 57 is great. I saw Sylvia Massey use a 57 on a guitar. I was like, damn.
They're pretty versatile. You can use them on a lot of things and get away with a decent sound.
The 57, that works. You can even hammer nails with it and you can come back. No, I'm just kidding. I wouldn't do that. But I'll use some kind of pencil mic, and then, or a 414 is cool. And depending on if the band has specific ideas, everybody wants to get everything done and then come back and overdub, we can double it later. Personally, I like doing it right now while you just played it. Is that what you're asking?
Well, just I guess more along the lines of like making sure that you don't paint yourself in a corner, like when it comes to the mix. Like, are you making that decision ahead of time? Like you kind of know based on the music that the guitar might be more of a mono kind of thing where you want to pan it off to one side, or are you thinking that far in advance when you're deciding on what kind of technique?
Sometimes I am. If I know it's going to be like a clean kind of polished modern, say, country thing, or if it's a rock thing and that's just some kind of supporting. But if it's clean, it's going to be super tight. Then I'll do like an XY or something, because you're not going to. Or I'll do a double, but want the guy to do it right then. But I will be more, determined to get it. If it's a little loose, I'll deal with it right then. Like, hey man, and you can do a lot of fixing in the computer too, but I'd rather the guy play it. If it's just some club rock and roll stuff, I might be like, yeah, let's just double that and not really worry too much about how accurate it is. It needs to be, musically accurate, but so I'll make the decision when we're tracking. And then like the other day I was recording some guy and I wanted to double stuff and he didn't really want to. And man, I joke around that I care, but I joke around that I'm the Burger King of recording. Have it your way. You look maybe too young to remember that ad campaign.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, have it your way, right? We don't give a shit. Whatever you want on your burger, that's your deal. It's not quite like that, but I'm like, well, if the dude doesn't want to, it's his record. And if I'm really wanting something, I'll ask a few times. But if they're just like, man, I don't really want to do that. My brother's playing this and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, all right, change the plans. I used to get so dialed in with track layout and what we're going to do and all that it was hard for me to change, because, I used to need to have a plan. Now the plan is just be flexible, dude. Don't piss the artist off. Do you really want two mediocre double tracks, or do you want a really good track that he's not worrying about doubling, that kind of stuff. So
fair. Yeah. No, that's a really good point. You'd also kind of brought up the idea of, kind of keeping with the times and how that kind of plays into some of your sound. So with that said, like when it comes to working with Willie, who has this like amazing extensive back catalog that, over the years, the technology has evolved so much, how much of an emphasis is there on like trying to keep his record sound modern versus just keeping that classic Willie Nelson sound that so many people know and love already,
Well, that's a good question. The stuff that he's doing in Nashville is really clean and I mean, it's excellent. I love the records. Buddy Cannon, Tony Castle, great, man. All the musicians they use, I got to meet them on a few sessions. Really good, tight records. We did, I did a record with Willie over COVID though, that was called The Family Record. And man, his son came down and said he wants you to co-produce this with him. I was like, wow, okay, and we just kind of let it happen. They were all in the room singing and playing, and that's more of like how they sound when they come in and play. So I'm all about that for a family gospel record. That was the way to go. But like I was saying with the double track guitars, if I'm over in Nashville and I'm about to put out a record on Sony with Willie, I'm probably going to get some A-list guys and make it really tight and polished, So, but with his tracks, like I leave stuff in on the guitar. I think Buddy does that to a certain degree. You know, so it does sound like him. I've lost focus of the question.
No, like it was kind of matter. It was like, you know, are you guys trying to make modern sounding records, or are you trying to preserve more of that like legacy kind of sound?
Yeah, that's what you're saying. I'm just trying to get his tracks recorded as well as I can. And that, to me, that is not a lot of processing and just letting him sing and play. So I can speak for the guitar and vocal. I just kind of leave them alone and let them, but I don't know what they do to the tracks in Nashville. I know they're super clean and they sound great. So, I mean, those players are so good. They might be played that way. You know what I mean? Not everything's edited. I did a record with Ray Price and he had Buddy Emmons and Jimmy Capps and Pete Wade and all these guys that at the time, this rocker kid from Dallas, I didn't know these people, you know, I'm not a country dude. I wasn't. But they were so amazing. I looked them up. I was like, oh, that's why. They all played appropriately to the song in the room, parts, knew when to lay out. You didn't have to edit anything. I didn't hardly edit anything on that record, man. Yeah. And if there was a mistake, they fixed it right away, and they played so much the same, you could punch it on a note and come out. It was just, wow. So, no, it depends on the record. Willie, I'm not trying to make his track super polished. I don't EQ them. I use a Bronner Velvet mic with an old Amperex tube from the 60s in it. And I go through preamp, sometimes a Millennia, sometimes the 5088, and a tube check. That's all I've ever done. Used to go through a Neve 1073 and a tube check. That's it. No EQ, no top end, nothing like that.
Wow. Well, I mean, that just goes to show you like the power of getting it right at the source, you know, using the right equipment, using the right positioning, the right performances, all that.
That's a hell of a source too, man. Willie Nelson. That's awesome.
Yeah, of course, right?
And the amp, you know, it's a Baldwin. I put a 57 on it. If I have control, I leave the vocal mic in to fatten it up, but I know a lot of people take that out and just use the amp with the 57. It sounds like it does on the records, man. If you're standing next to the amp, you're like, wow, that sounds like, you know, the record.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, hey, I mean, that just really goes to show the importance of getting it right at the source and spending that time. And obviously you've honed in that system of working with Willie and knowing, you know, how to get that sound and, you know, what mics probably work really well on him and all that stuff. And
yeah, you know. And I've experimented and had to come back around, you know, but the source is the way to do it. I mean, you always got to EQ stuff, and there comes a point when you got to quit going out there and messing around with stuff. And I've spent days with other guys on drum sounds, and at the end of the day, you're like, did we really need to work on this drum set for a day and a half, you know? But EQ is good, and it's useful. But yeah, if you can go turn some lugs on the drums or turn a knob on the amp, there's a concept. Move the mic a quarter inch. That's amazing. You know, oh, it's too bright. Let's move the mic a little. Oh, it's not bright enough. Move it. Yeah, that's the best. But and just, you know, I'm so grateful I learned from someone who knew about that stuff. And paid attention. Now, I still can't tune drums per se, but I can be like, hey, man, that's too tight. You need to lower that. That's too loose. You know, I got an idea of where it needs to be. Amps and guitar miking, I'm all over that because I'm a guitar player. It's like, yeah, man, turn your mid-range up. Dude, can we turn off some of that bass? You know, stuff like that.
Yeah. So then as far as that experimentation side of it goes, because you did say that, yeah, sometimes you'll switch up a mic or that kind of thing. You know, how do you integrate that into your process? Because, you know, like you said, Willie likes to work fast. So, you know, do you find yourself in a situation where he's like, oh, let's try something different? Like, is it kind of his ideas to try something different, or you're kind of just throwing it in, hoping for the best? Yeah,
he just wants to come in and play. He's not into the recording process that much, other than, you know, it sounds good, you know. He gave me a very good compliment about how I'm always there. It always sounds good. You know, that's about all you're going to get. He wants to hear it back and sound good. But if I'm working, I don't experiment much with Willie. You know, I put an 87 on his amp one time just to see. And then the assistant put that in his phones, even though I said, make sure he gets the 57 in the phones. And he knew in like 2 notes. Something's not right with the amp. I'm like, dude, get the 57 in his phones now. But I don't mess around. You know, I use what works with him. But if I'm in there with other bands and time's not a huge element, which always sucks when the band's like, no, we got to get this done. It's like, all right. So you want it to sound fast and not good, right? You know? Yeah, I'll always have like the 57s always in there. Maybe I'll throw a ribbon up. I always have a little bit of what works and then some wild card thing. And I'll know immediately, man, that ain't happening. Let's just go back to what works. Or, wow, that's really cool. Let's get rid of the 57 and see what's going on with this mic. If I'm in there with friends, which at this point in my life, that's who I record, mostly bands that I'm familiar with and we're hanging. But, if shit goes awry, I'm ready to stay there 12 hours, 14 hours, because, man, I really shouldn't have tried that. Can we go back and do that again? So, experiment at your own risk.
Yeah, but I love that advice that you gave of if you are going to experiment while doing the thing that works. Like, you're not sidetracking the session just for you to experiment. You're just doing something in addition to see if it works, and very quickly you'll know if it doesn't. Or if it does.
And I love working with all the Nelsons, but especially Micah, because he's killer, man. He's got a band, Particle Kid, and he just likes weird stuff or unconventional stuff, even to the point where I'm going, like, one of his mix notes a while back was, you should feel like you shouldn't be doing this and that you're messing up the mix while you're doing it. And boy, I sure did. And I kept telling my girlfriend, geez, I want to come over there. My girlfriend's a huge part of my life. She sits here while I mix. I like to bounce things off of her because she's not really super technical, but she knows like what she likes and what she doesn't. And I think those people are super valuable.
Yeah, you need those. Those are fans, right?
It's the audience, she just hangs out, and I hate when people go, I'm not a professional. I'm like, good. I don't want a professional's opinion. I want Joe Public, but Michael will have me do stuff. And he's also game for like, hey man, you mind if I try this? You got to know your client. Some people don't want you messing around, but
for sure. Yeah, no, that's interesting. And it's again, good thing to keep in mind. And I do like the idea of bouncing things off of people that aren't technically proficient, because you're not going to get those notes of like, boost 3K or whatever. It's like, is it good or not? That's usually what it comes down to, right?
Your dog's barking, dude.
Yeah, I know. Someone must be in the hallway and he's freaking out.
Dogs are cool. Whatever. I'm a dog friendly dude. I like animals on the session, and not just band animals. I like animals.
Yeah, I love like, hey, if I knew he wasn't gonna bark, I'd have him in the room with me. But I knew he was gonna bark, so either that or he'd be like biting at my feet right now. He hates when I talk to people.
Yeah, but, hey man, I'm here. Deal with me.
Yeah, of course, right? He's a new pup, so he's in that biting phase. But whatever. But right on, man. Like, yeah, I think. Everything you've shared here is amazing, and I think it's given us a lot of insight into what goes into what makes a pro session run as smoothly as it does, and a lot of the techniques and a lot of the tips that you gave, I think they're things that people, regardless if it's like a big star or not, these are things that people need to take and implement into their sessions, because you got to be fast, you got to be efficient, you got to be respectful, you have to, all of those things that you mentioned are things that people need to do, because that's how you keep people coming back to you. That's how you create a good experience. That's how you get great results. And I think it's really important and people need to hear that stuff. So thanks for sharing all of that, man.
Yeah, man, you're welcome. It's just be human, man. And man, you don't know everything. I don't know everything. I might think I do, and in the back of my mind, I'm going, well, I'm going to try this, but that's a dumbass idea. And then I'll put it up and try it, and I'm like, damn, I guess I'm the dumbass. You got to be open to learning. I said it recently in an interview. If you're not, you're just going to be making the same record over and over again. I mean, it's good to know what works, but man, be open to people. Don't shut people down. Even if you know something's not going to work, let that guy figure it out for himself. It might be worth 20 minutes, 30 minutes, instead of sitting there and being like, I know better than you. This ain't going to work. I've done it 50 times. It never works. First of all, it may work that time. You don't know. Probably not gonna. And sometimes the best argument is just letting the dude try something and have him go, yeah, that sucks. I don't want to do that. Okay, let's move on. No, there's no will. That's where that psychology comes in. And I'm not like consciously going, well, I'm going to be a psychiatrist and let him do this. Well, I'm just like, I only learned by screwing stuff up. That's how I make good records now, is I screwed up so many other records. And I'm finally like, wow, don't do that again. How many times can there's always a new mistake, but I don't find them too often, but sometimes I do. It's like, whoops.
Of course, yeah. That's the best approach to have. Like, every band I've ever worked with, I've always told them right from the get-go, like, good or bad, we're going to try out every single idea and we have to hear it through. And half the time it's like, I don't think something's going to work, but sometimes a good thing happens, or sometimes it's like, I know that if we try it that way and we hear it a different way, they're going to realize the other way is better. So it's like, sometimes that's how you have to get to those, whatever serves the song best, like ultimately that's what it comes down to. And you just got to try things to see what works.
Absolutely. And different is okay. Like I've got, again, I've been working with Micah recently a lot. So I've got 2 or maybe 3 different versions of this song he's putting out with his dad. And I like the second version we did, but they're putting out the third version. None of the versions are bad. They're all just different. What are you going to do, man? We don't all like chocolate, some of us like vanilla.
Of course. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to their vision and what they like. And if whatever they like is the key, like they're your clients. That's what they're paying you for. And that's their artistic vision. Right.
And if I'm producing something, that's what I tell people, like, if you want me to get all up in the song and tell you, well, I have ideas and stuff, but really my style is I want to get what you want to get across with input. I'm not going to just sit there and go, whatever, dude. I'm like, hey, let's try this. Or, hey, I'm hearing this harmony. Or should we put this guitar part? But I'm not going to be like, man, I'm producing. Man, I've seen this 1,000 times. I'm producing. We're doing it this way. Blah. Well, some guys want that kind of direction. I'm not your man if that's your thing. If you don't know where you're going, I don't have a map. But I got a really good car that can get you there if you know where you're going. So I'll take you. that's
for sure.
Wow, I never said that before. I gotta write that one down. That's pretty good.
I'll take a quote of that one there.
I don't have a clue is more like it. I'm just winging it 27 years later.
But it's important. It's important to know what you bring to the table and who you want to work with, and because it's. The bands that come to you wanting that person that gives all of, that's constantly ripping everything apart, they're not going to have a great experience with you. Not that you're not going to make a great sounding record for them, but it's just that it's going to be butting heads all the time. So it is important to know, like, whenever you're working with a producer, an engineer, or an artist, it's like you always have to be sharing that same vision, be on that same level with each other so you can really get the most out of the session. And so if you know what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, like that's a good thing to use to your advantage.
Right. And if when I was working commercially, you have to be kind of a chameleon. You don't have to be a fake ass about it, but you have to be adaptable and realize you're here to get these guys in and out. But now that I'm working more on things that, are people I know and stuff like that, I mean, I just know what I like and what I don't. It's not necessarily what you like and what you don't, but let's try and get there. Even if I don't like the music, if I'm in a situation, or I don't get in these situations much, but where I didn't like the band, or I didn't like the politics of the band. I mean, politics, religion, social issues, they got no business in a studio, but boy, it comes up. Worst case scenario, I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to get lost in the work. I don't like this. I don't like these people maybe. And then that doesn't happen often, but it happens. Let's be realistic. You can't be in a room with somebody 27 years and not run across people you don't like. I still get lost. I'm not like, man, these guys are assholes. I'm going to do whatever to get them in and out of here. I just can't do that. I will go, all right, I'm going to make this the best sounding record that I don't care for that there ever was, and I get lost in the sound. I mean, that really is how I operate. I try to find what's good. Well, what's good here is this guitar sound, and let's try and make everything good. I don't have to listen to their stupid ass jokes. I don't have to do this, and you get through it. You can always make something worthwhile to do, even if it's personal and internal, and they don't know about it.
Yeah, I love that though. I think that's a really important thing because you sometimes have to push your boundaries to see like what you like and what you don't like, and work in different genres or whatever. Like especially in the early stages, you might be taking on all the clients you can possibly get, whether you like their music or not, and you still have to find something that you're drawn to about it, and have fun with it, and not just hate everything you're doing, because if you're doing that, you're going to get out of the business really quickly. So.
And I do find joy in, and I was joking with my girlfriend, there's just no joy left. There's just no joy. It's just a joke, There is joy. And sometimes that joy is just the sound. It doesn't go past that. But more often than not, I really love what I do, man. It's hard. the older I get, but I'll still pull. I did 100 hours in a week with the Super Suckers, this band I've been working with for a long time, because they're homeboys and we're hanging out. And we're making some hard rock and we were just rocking, man. But after that week, at that time, I was 51, 52. I was like, damn, it took a week to recover from the week. Whereas before, a bad day hanging out, and I'm like, bam, let's go do some more. I was like, golly, I don't feel old, but sometimes my body's telling me, dude, you're 54, man. You can't do 100 hours in a week. But I'll do it again with them next record because I love those guys and it's badass,
Love it, man. Yeah, I love it. Like you I can hear it in your voice. Like you clearly love just like doing what you do and you're having fun with it and you're living your best life. And that's amazing, man. I love that.
Yeah, man. It's got to do. I mean, if you're not having fun, you might as well be punching a clock and getting a 401k and just, I don't have, I'm self-employed technically. I don't have insurance. I don't have a 401k. I don't have all that stuff, people. But boy, I get up and I'm like, go in my living room and fire some stuff up. Sometimes if I don't have work, I'll just mix something.
Yeah, it's the thing you're passionate about. You'll do it even when it's not work.
Just going to throw something up because I'm bored. You can only watch so much, Showtime or whatever, It's just like, Jesus, man. Everything on TV sucks. I think I'll mix something I already mixed and do something different. Or I think I'll mix something that wasn't it was an outtake. And then I'll strike the mix. Done. I may print it and listen to it for myself, but that's it. That's what I do. I don't know what else to do. I have no idea what to do when I'm not working on music.
I agree. I'm the same way.
I can see you got a guitar amp, you got some groovy.
Yeah, I got my drums, my guitars, all this stuff going on, right?
Yeah, man. I got racks of gear, and it's just like I don't really need all this, but I like it.
It's fun. It's
really all you need is a good song, man. Whether 2 chords in the truth or something. Bob Dylan, somebody said that. You just need good music, man. And music is like good or bad, and that's subjective in itself.
I 100% agree. I've always viewed it that way, and it kind of goes back to what you said earlier about just like finding enjoyment in the stuff you're doing, even if it's even if you don't agree with the artist or whatever. It's like I've always viewed it that way. Like I can listen to any genre of music and find something in it that I enjoy. It might not be like the thing I always listen to, but I can find some value in it. And I think taking that same approach, whether it's like the people you work with or just the music you're working on, it's like you have to find that joy in there, or find the thing that excites you,
And that changes. Like I used to be, I mentioned before, I grew up in Dallas. It was all sweep picking and arpeggios. Blah, blah, blah. Now I look at that stuff and I'm still kind of like, man, that's pretty badass. But damn, I can't sit here and listen to it. And I used to listen to country and go, what the hell is this dude talking about? His mama this and prison and blah, 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 pickup truck. And now it's a 180. Now I'm like, and that might be from getting older. I'm like, man, I relate to that song, the story. Yeah, it's the same chord progression, but it's the story. I mean, I still like the shred, dude. I'm still going, damn, wow. But, it's you got to be changing all the time, Country music taught me a lot. I never listened to country a day in my life till I got in the studio. And then I started listening. I'm like, what the hell is this, man? But now I'm like, oh, wow, check that out. Hey, that's there's a lot of musical elements in country that people take for granted. But when a guy's singing about something that you've gone through and that shit hits you, man, I've been in tears a couple of times, man. Willie's made me cry like 2-3 times in the last 5 years. I'm at the console crying. Jesus, get your shit together, man. You're at work, So, yeah, that's pretty awesome, dude, if you're crying from joy, not because your job sucks.
That's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well, I know you got to go to dinner with your mom, so I don't want to keep you talking much longer. But man, thank you for hopping on here. I really appreciate it. And if people want to learn more about you or follow you online, what's the best way for them to do that?
Man, if you Google Steve Chadie, my website will come up. If you want to see a lot of gear and some smart ass comments, all in fun and joy and jest, go to Instagram. It's Steve Chadie 50 because at the time, the person who set it up for me, I was 50. I'm like, I'm not going to be 50 that long, but that's what it is. But just Google. It's pretty funny if you ever Googled yourself and a lot of stuff comes up. You're like, oh my God, I didn't know that picture was up there.
So everyone click on the show notes so that way you don't see the embarrassing stuff. I'll just send you right to the links that you need to have.
Well, I missed this one picture used to come up. I was in my daughter's, she's 22 now, but she had a Winnie the Pooh hat that had Winnie the Pooh on it. And I have a broom plugged into a Marshall stack. And I used to be like, you idiot, man. But, what the hell were you thinking? But now I can't find that picture. But what the thing is I remember the day it was taken, the band I was with. I was like, yeah, y'all were having a good time.
Yeah, you gotta have fun and live life, and that's human.
Yeah,
right?
man,
So,
totally.
Yeah.
Well, man, I appreciate you reaching out, man. That was awesome.
All right, so that was my interview with Steve Chadie, and that was awesome. Steve's he's such a fun guy. I had such a great time chatting with him, and lots of jokes, and I could tell why he fits in really well in the studio with a lot of artists that he works with, and why they would want to keep coming back to them, because he's just such a personable guy, and I think it's important to have that when you're in the studio with someone. You want to be with someone that you trust and that you have a good time with, and Steve definitely has that attitude and approach to everything he does. So I can definitely see how he resonates with a lot of bands. But it was really interesting in this interview. I loved hearing the stories about working with Willie and some of the approaches that they take to recording. And I love hearing about how everything just works so fast. It's one of those things that in digital, so many people take their time, they start to experiment so much, and they get lost in all the things that are possible because of digital recording. But there's something to be said for just working efficiently, getting in there, having a vision for what you want your recordings to sound like, working fast, getting it done, and being done with it. And so it's great to hear stories of people that just continue to work that way. And it's also amazing just to get some insight into some of the recordings that some of these legends are making. And so, very cool to have Steve on the show and tell us a little bit about that story and give us a little bit of a behind the scenes view of, what really goes into some of these records and how they're made. So yeah, that was just a lot of fun, and hopefully we can have Steve back another time, because I think that there's a lot more that we can dive into with him as well. So I hope that you enjoyed that episode. I hope that you found it interesting. And if you're a Willie Nelson fan, I'm sure you did. Yeah, and even if you're not, there's a lot of great information here that you can take from this interview and apply it to your own sessions. So yeah, I hope that you found that interesting. If you did, definitely make sure to subscribe to the podcast, and also make sure to visit MasterYourMix.com. That's where I help out musicians with creating pro-sounding recordings from their home studios. And on that website, I've got tons of great resources designed to help you make the process of recording and mixing your music easier. And one resource that you definitely want to check out while you're there is called The Mixing Mindset. That is my book that I put out where I break down the process of mixing, make it super step-by-step for you, covering what steps to take, what order to work in, what to be listening for, how to dial in your settings, and personalize all your settings to get the best sound for your particular mix. This isn't about template mixing where everything sounds the same. No, it's about helping you find your artistic vision and helping you actually make that artistic vision come out of your speakers. So make sure to check that out. It's called The Mixing Mindset, and it's available at MasterYourMix.com. And that is it for this episode, guys. I hope that you enjoyed that, and I look forward to chatting with you in the next one. We'll talk soon. Have a good one. Thanks for listening to the Master Your Mix podcast. Please make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and leave a review. If you have any questions or comments for the podcast, send an email to questions@masteryourmix.com. And for more information on how to create pro recordings from your home studio, visit MasterYourMix.com.